All right. Hello. I'm Lance Vader, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about how economics works. This is an idea I've had for a game that would teach children economics, probably at the high school level, like high school senior level, which is where they take economics in high school, at least in California. Anyway, so the idea behind the game is that you you make students play a game to learn economics instead of just lecturing them. And games, I think, work better than lectures and textbooks and assignments for the most part because they have to learn the principles of economics in order to play the game. And if they master these principles, they can beat the other students at the game. So how does this work? Well, every week you're going to add something to the game, or maybe you want to do it every day. That's fine too. Uh, but I'm going to act like you're doing this once a week at the start of the week or at Friday on Friday. This would be a great thing to do on Fridays because students already want to play games and not do anything serious on Fridays anyhow. And you're going to sneakily teach them by letting them do that. Uh, so you're going to introduce a new concept every week to the game. You're going to introduce a new level of complexity. It's going to start out very, very, very simple, and it's going to get very complicated by the end of the semester. Um, you are going to give them choices within the game, and you are going to give them opportunities, maybe even have random events happen. The game is going to um, uh, right. It's going to require that every student have a character sheet, and they will keep that character sheet with them. Anybody who loses their character sheet, then you could make up a rule, say that character died, and they have to start over with a new character. That's perfectly fine to do because then it gives students a really good incentive to hold on to their character sheets. All right, so the first thing you want to introduce in economics is the idea of scarcity and markets and how markets work. So you have to give them two options, right, to choose from. The most basic thing, and then allow them time to trade. So you give them two options with two different resources, and then you allow them to trade amongst each other, and that creates a market. So the way I would do this in my game is that I would say, okay, everybody, we've had the apocalypse. Zombies have killed most of humanity, and you guys are the survivors. You are just a small group of survivors hiding out in a refuge far from where civilization used to be. And right now, there are two things that you need. You need food and you need clothing because we're in a place where it gets very cold at night. If you don't have clothing, then you will freeze to death at night. That's no fun. If you don't have any food, obviously, you're going to starve to death. So, in order to avoid those things, everybody needs two food and two clothing. Now, if you get six food or six clothing, then you will get a bonus. That's what you really want. Okay, so if you get six food, you are going to be super healthy. You're going to feel great, but you really only need two to survive. All right, we got this. All right, and then once everybody understands the requirements, you introduce their options. You say, all right, now each of you can be either a scavenger or a clothes maker, right? If you're a scavenger, then you will start the game with 8 food. If you're a clothes maker, you will start the game with 4 clothes. Remember, everybody needs 2 food and 2 clothes in order to survive the week. So make sure that you get enough food and clothing to do that. All right. So you give them a goal. You give them a minimum of two food and two clothing, and then you give them a goal beyond that, like the six food thing that I mentioned, and they'll get a bonus if they manage to get six food. Um, and and that way you'll have students. Everybody needs to trade at least once. But if they manage to get everything they need on the first trade, they still have reason to stay in the market. They still want to have all of this, extra stuff. Oh, and then you tell them that everything that you trade for, you'll get to keep on your character sheet. You'll get to keep that stuff for next week. Okay. I mean, obviously they'll eat some of the food, and maybe some of the clothes will get torn. But other than that, you get to keep whatever you get in the market. All right. So you'll have them trade. This might take maybe 30 seconds per person. So if you've got 10 people, this could take 5 minutes. If you've got 30 people, it could take 15 minutes. Um, yeah, but at some point, there will be not much trading going on. Oh yes, and you need to make it clear that they can trade, and they can set any terms that they want in the trade. You can, as long as you are trading things that you actually have, that's everything goes. Um, right, and then so once you do all the trades, you see who's got all the things they need to survive. Hopefully, everyone's got the things they need to survive. If you want to make it a little harder, you can say that each scavenger starts off with like 6 food. And they need 5 food in order to win the bonus. Um, and if too many people pick scavenger, then the people who pick clothes maker are going to be able to get lots of food for their clothes. Um, but the students don't really know that. They're just going to pick, not knowing what everybody else is picking. And it might be possible that there's not enough food or not enough clothes for everyone to survive. And that's a lesson about scarcity that you can teach. You can say, okay, sometimes there's just not enough for everybody even to survive, right? And sometimes, but there's never enough for everyone to get everything that they want, right? Because everyone would love to have 2 clothes and 6 food, but you can't. You can't. There aren't enough resources for that. All right, so anybody whose character dies, you just write that down on their character sheet, that one death, and they have to come up with a new name for their character. But it's the first week, so not really any other penalties apply there. And then anybody who got the 6 bonus food, you can give them a little. You can either just like give them a piece of candy or something, or you can give them 1 experience point and say, okay, you can cash this in later when we make the game a little more complicated. You can cash this in for an extra benefit, and it'll be awesome. And then you have to make that awesome. I will show you how to do that in the second lesson. This is the first lesson, the lesson on markets, scarcity, and choices and trade. And that's kind of a lot for one lesson, but I feel like those are concepts that people are already familiar with. You just have to teach it in a formal way to make sure that everybody knows that these are real concepts and that these are the kinds of things that you're talking about whenever you mention those concepts. You're really teaching vocabulary in this lesson. Next lesson is going to be on choices. It's going to be on diminishing returns and supply and demand. So actually, no, it will not. This one won't be about diminishing returns. This one will be about supply and demand. So stay tuned for that. Supply and demand will be lesson number 2 in Economics 101, the game series.